This conference will now be recorded.
And first, call to order, we have opportunity for public comment. Any public comment here today?
No. Is there anybody online that wishes to make public comment?
No, we do have 5 participants online.
Okay. We have item number 3 on our agenda then is an action item regarding approval of minutes from April 16, 2025 meeting, pages 8 through 12 in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve or any questions?
Motion to approve.
Move to approve, Councilman Adam.
Second.
I'll take a second from Mayor Blomquist over here. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 4, discussion action item regarding the nomination election of the Policy Board Vice-Chair for the remainder of fiscal year 2025. I think by now you're all aware that Ms. Long has resigned her position on council, and that leaves a vacancy at chair. Our bylaws unfortunately moved me into chair, so you don't get to decide on that today, but we have to because I checked. I tried to find somebody else. So here I am, and y'all have an opportunity to nominate for vice chair at this point in time. Do I hear any nominations from the floor?
If nobody wants to do it, I'll do it. This is just 3 months. There's somebody.
Well, I think, if I remember correctly, Rob, you were one of the 3 that was willing to take the chair, vice chair position when you originally started this, and so, Rob has said he's willing to do it. Would anybody be willing to nominate and second that nomination? Or have anybody else in mind?
I'll second it.
Okay, so I'll take Rob. Mr. Adams is, I'm sorry, we've been friends a long time. Keep calling you Rob.
No problem.
I need to be more.
That was my military.
I'll try to do better. Mr. Adams, Councilman Adams, you got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Councilman Adams.
Your attendance record is great, so.
I'll try to maintain that. Item number 5, discussion action item regarding approval of active transportation advisory committee, ATAC membership. And Anita, this is turn it over to you.
Thank you all so much. Last week we had our ATAC meeting, and Ms. Lauren Morrell has formally requested to be considered a voting member of ATAC. She would like to be a representative with the youth interest. She actually resides in Gatesville. However, she does a lot of community outreach activities in the Bell County area, specifically Belton. And she would really be a great asset to us, a valuable voice for youth perspectives. ATAC did approve her, and as part of our bylaws, it's required that the policy board and TAC approve her recommendation as well.
What is ATAC's role?
We are the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. We are formerly known as a Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory, and so
It's an advisory group to.
yes, we're an advisory group specifically with safety regarding bicycle and pedestrian activities in our community. We did extend that to paddleboard since we have a few lakes in the area, and any low electric vehicle like a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, something like that.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything to that, Jason?
I would say anything that's not in a car and you're moving around is probably active transportation.
Got it.
Thank you, Jason.
So my tractor count's going down the corner market road too?
Human power.
Yes. And that's a fairly large committee. I mean,
Yes.
20 members or?
We have up to 20 members, and we do have a few vacancies. And so if you have someone in your organization that's interested to represent, please let me know. We're very excited about the direction of our Active Transportation Advisory Committee and what we're doing. Currently, we're working on a regional plan to connect itself from Kettler to Troy, and that's a visionary goal that we're working with all the cities, and we're going to talk about that a little later.
Wow. That'd be great. So,
All right. So this is a potential action item. Here, so we have to approve this nomination.
I'm going to approve the nomination of Ms. Morrell to the voting member position on ATAC.
Okay. Second. Second, that come from Mr. Treadway. Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 6, discussion action item regarding approval of ratification for MPO Director's requested response to Senator Cruz's office for the 2025 Reauthorization Bill. And I'll let Uryan talk about this.
I hope you guys have a lot of time. As you may recall, last month, the policy board authorized me to submit a request to the Transportation Infrastructure Subcommittee, or the Transportation Infrastructure Subcommittee for the House. Following that meeting, I think 3 weeks ago, possibly 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got an email from Senator Cruz's staff for the EPW Senate Subcommittee that said, hey, we need your surface transportation reauthorization priorities. We need it by Friday, which is why this is here as a ratification. I did speak to Commissioner Whitson about possibly signing the letter that was attached. And when we spoke about that, we felt it would be better if I signed the letter and then the board took action to ratify my submission. But what I did is I worked with AMPO, our national organization, to basically recompile the stuff that we submitted to TNI. So that was the same information that was submitted to EPW through Senator Cruz's request. It was a different format, little nuances here and there. But the overall reauthorization priorities were the same that I submitted for TNI. So the request today is that the policy board ratify the action that I took and the letter that I signed on behalf of KTMPO to submit the reauthorization priorities for the bill.
Yeah, ultimately, it didn't give us much of a timeline, so we couldn't get to this meeting to make that decision. So after talking to Uryan, called me, I told him I didn't feel like I had the authority to do anything on behalf of this board without this board giving me that authority. But since he is, in fact, our administrator here and is up to date, stays up to date with MPO rules and what our prerogatives are here locally, that in my opinion, it was acceptable for him to go ahead and sign that, send that in. If we, for any reason, don't like something that's in there, now's our opportunity to say, hey, we want to modify some things, and we'll resend it. But that timeline was very short. So that was the call that I made to not overstep my authority here with the board, but still keep us in line with Senator Cruz so we didn't miss any opportunity. Anybody have any additions or corrections that they would like to make to this? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to ratify it if not.
Make a motion.
Thanks. Councilman, or Pro Tem now, I think. Yeah. Right, Adams.
Still councilman.
Got a motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Number 7, discussion action item regarding approval of resolution 2025-09 recognizing June 7th, 2025 as National Trails Day. And Anita, you're on again.
Thank you, sir. National Trails Day is the first Saturday in June, and this will be our first year as ATAG, collaborating with all of our member organizations to host some activities in our community. And we're very grateful that for our first, hopefully annual Trails Day, Suncoast Recycling will have a mountain bike ride at Dana Peak Park, followed by trail cleanup at Salado Table Rock Creek, Table Rock Amphitheater Trails, excuse me. The City of Copper's Cove will be doing a ribbon cutting ceremony for the trails at Ogletree Gap Preserve. And Barrow, thank you, Jason. Barrow Brewing is going to host a paddleboard on Salado Creek. So we're super excited for all those activities, and this resolution is in support of active transportation, getting out in the community and recognizing all of our trails in our region.
Questions? I would entertain a motion to approve. Make a motion. Saxon and Strickland. Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 8. Discussion and action item regarding approval of resolution 2025-10, authorizing KTMPO to submit an application for the 2025 SS4A Planning and Demonstration Grant. Uryan?
Okay, as you'll all recall, we're still working on closing out our current SS4A planning grant. There are additional dollars that have been made available for this upcoming grant cycle. What we have in front of you is we are asking for authorization to submit for additional or supplemental planning activities under the SS4A program. To do some additional items, one of those being, I think the biggest conversation we've had on any of these is our intent with this grant would be to feed the current SS4A plan that we just finished and kind of hone in on some areas where we may need some additional information or that weren't covered in this plan. The biggest thing that the administration is looking for right now is for there to be some type of theme for the regional application, which we discussed a little bit at TAC on what a theme would look like, and we discussed maybe something with school crossings, items like that for demonstration projects, and then they're also looking for us to leverage new technologies. Unless somebody has objection or something more relevant, a big thing that I've heard and I've been looking into and I have a real interest in, which I think everybody on this board would probably have a real interest in for a safety plan, is a method to detect near miss. And near miss is a technology that's out there, it's available, and we can use these funds for that. As you're all aware, we can pull up any type of data from accidents that have happened, but unfortunately those accidents have happened. In the spirit of the SS4A program, we are trying to minimize traffic fatalities and injuries, and the best way to do that is to avoid people getting into an accident and to identify where those are not just where they're happening, but where they're probably going to happen in the future because of near misses that occur. I mean, we all drive around and say, I just saw that guy almost hit that guy. But we can't just throw that into a plan. We need some type of data to inform that. Now what this is a resolution authorizing staff to apply for the grant. I'm not saying that we're going to do the grant, but it authorizes us to apply for the grant. If we were awarded the grant, it would be like the last one. There would be a 20% match requirement. I think there have been some conversations on them lowering it to a 10% match for planning and demonstration funds, but nothing has happened yet. We wouldn't know if we were awarded this grant until the fall. And we have until the end of June to apply. This item will also be in front of the SICCOG Executive Committee tomorrow because in addition to the KTMPO boundary, we would hope to do this for the entire 7-county region of SICCOG if the Executive Committee felt that it was a worthwhile effort. With that being said, the additional item that you'll see on your packet and on the screen is to update the plan as needed to align with federal priorities. After discussion at TAC a couple weeks ago, we decided that probably wasn't the best verbiage to use. We don't want to use supplemental dollars to go in and change a plan we've already created under law and contracts that we had just to align with federal priorities. But we will have to update the plan with any of the data that we receive if we choose to move forward and any of those type of updates. And then that will open a conversation with the administration with possibly changing some of the language in the plan. But at this point right now, we don't plan on just opening the plan to change language. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
And I know it's come up before, I think I spoke to you before about it, but I know, like, there are some of our cities that are still in the box at the traffic lights, would that fit under the thing? You know, we shift to where, Killeen specifically, and I don't know if any other cities have a transportation operations center, where you can control the lights or program the lights from a distance as opposed to the gray box at each intersection. Is to upgrade that, 'cause I know there was a discussion had in AMPO last fall about that technology to shift to that. It'd be more of a cloud-based system as opposed to a direct wired system.
I think those would possibly be eligible. I just don't know, you know, and that's not something I'm super familiar with because I know, you know, TxDOT has control of some lights, the cities have control of some lights. So those lines may get blurred and I don't know how that would look like. We would definitely have to coordinate with TxDOT if it impacted any of their intersections.
Can that be included in the supplemental?
I think if that technology is something that, I know signal light timing, those have been projects that were approved for.
What you got into the leading pedestrian interval, that goes into those traffic operations centers where it is, you know, whether it's that cabinet or it's some modeled system, you know, it is a safety improvement.
Yeah.
So it is aligned with SS4A. But outside SS4A, it's still eligible for transportation funding, Cat 7, SP funding. You know, there's federal funding. It doesn't, so, you know, a lot of times we get hung up on roads, sidewalks, highways, that kind of technology, what they call intelligent transportation systems, those are eligible for federal funding as well.
I figure we get it in all possible places, we all may get something.
That's the plan.
So
Let's make it rain.
So is at first I think it's a worthwhile effort, totally. I am curious about the technology, the near miss technology. Is that accomplished with the cameras that you guys are talking about, or is there something else?
I believe that is a different camera system. We would have to go out for RFP. We would get another vendor that specializes in that technology. And then we would have to put something out because citizens would be like, what are all these cameras that are at this intersection?
Well, it's a proactive approach as opposed to a reactive.
Exactly.
Because after the fact, like you said, you know there was a bad accident, there was fatality there. This would give you the capability of looking at, hey, there's been 10 near, fatality accidents here. And that would be a good data point to be able to say, hey, maybe we should do something proactively as opposed to reactively for this.
My understanding is some of it, you can look at the traffic volume, you can look at the configuration of the intersection. And you have not locally had a crash history, that configuration, that number of vehicles is typically correlated with a higher crash rate. So you can look at that and say, this is not an if, but a when. Well, then let's get in front of it, right?
So it's predictive analysis,
A little bit, yeah.
algorithms.
Mm-hmm. And part of that is, we did this with, ATAC. It came up when we did our mobility plan, is folks will come and just do some public engagement. Because people will tell you, that's an accident waiting to happen, and I'm not pointing at you, Mayor. Yeah, they know their neighborhood. They know where there's a hazard, and they'll tell you. And then you can back it up with data that supports the project.
So the resolution that we're being asked to approve today, is that specific to just these things, or is it just a resolution to get y'all moving?
It would be, in the resolution, it identifies these items.
But you mentioned taking updating the plan. You're talking about taking that
I would
out of there?
not take the entire, I would update the plan as needed, but remove align with federal
Just the
priorities.
So as it's written in the packet is correct. All right, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-10, authorizing KTMPO to submit an application for the 2025 SS planning and demonstration grant.
That's second.
All right, Mr. Berger's got a second. Everyone was moved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 9, discussion and action item regarding speed sign loaner program. Here we go.
I'm going to be part the next item too. As you'll remember, last year we were awarded funding from TechStop for the MPO region for safety initiatives and for safety planning activities. Instead of using those funds for an actual safety plan because we had DSS for $8, the board elected to request from TechStop that we be able to use those funds for these portable speed signs that could inform our safety plans. What we've done over the past, I think it's almost been a year now, is over the past year is we've gotten the speed signs in. Staff have put together the instructions on how to use those signs. We've drafted an ILA for me to enter into agreements with each of the cities as they check these out. Staff have set them up, tried them. So if you drove by and saw staff running through the parking lot, it's because they were trying to see how fast they were going. We have 10 of these. But we have 10 of these signs. They are available for any jurisdiction within the MPO boundary to check out. I think the TAC at their last meeting, they were supportive of the ILA and the verbiage in it. I think the biggest question was how long are cities going to have these signs? My initial thought was 30 to 90 days, and then I heard from the city saying, we usually do these types of things for 7 to 14 days. So we're thinking probably these ILAs would probably be valid for an initial 14-day period. Allow staff to come pick them up, install them, and then if things change, we can add or remove dates as needed. But what this is an action item to approve the actual ILA and then approve me to sign those ILAs with each member jurisdiction with any modifications that may be needed by the city. The city of Temple may have some legal requirements that I haven't caught in the ILA template. Harker Heights may have the same thing. So, this is a very broad, basic ILA, and I anticipate there'll be some questions from city attorneys, and that's the reason that the verbiage is in there for me to make any revisions as needed.
So our staff will, KTMPO staff, TikTok staff will move the signs out and bring them back.
No, the jurisdiction will pick them up here. Yeah, staff will run through the instructions with them, and then
So we'll install them and put them up in place and wear them back in that 14-day period.
correct.
So it might still be appropriate then to, if they had more than one location they wanted to monitor for 7 to 14 days, to still have them out 30 to 60 days to go
From one place to another.
Yeah, and I'm good. I can do an initial 30-day.
Like they only want it in one spot, want it for 7 days, that's fine, but I just want to have some latitude.
Yeah, we would probably use it for more than one location.
It also depends on how many people need them right now. Make sure that again, let everybody have a shot at it. Right. I don't know what kind of response we're gonna have yet.
I don't either.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? All right, I would entertain a motion.
Move that we approve the ILA with the, as stated.
Councilman Adams moves.
Second.
Councilman Treadway seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 10, discussion item regarding an update on the Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4E grant in-kind match report. How many folks have signed their online document?
So these are continuing to come in, and I was hoping to have additional information today. Staff haven't had an opportunity to put it together. I've asked for a list of everybody that we're still waiting for, as well as what their total contribution is via in-kind documentation that we're waiting on, broken down by month and then total, so I can reach out and have conversations. But they just haven't had an opportunity to get to that yet. So right now, as the report in front of you says, we've spent $963,000 of the grant. Our in-kind match requirement is $192,000-ish. We've received 158,000 hours, which we're continuing to accrue those hours even at today's meeting because we haven't officially closed out the grant. Any other safety type activities or any other meetings, we're still getting in-kind dollars. But the biggest issue we're seeing is without those forms, our administrative folks here aren't able to submit everything they need. And we still have time to get these forms. I have no doubt that we'll be able to. But short of us printing everybody's forms out and bringing them to a policy board meeting in a stack probably bigger than what I had for the packet today, and spending the whole hour signing forms as you're listening to me sing my melody up here. I think we just need to, once I have that information, I'll be able to track down a little further how we get to those dollars.
I'm operating under the assumption that I've signed everything I'm supposed to do, so if I haven't, let me know.
And I think some people are, and that's the thing,
I'll check with my folks, but please let us know, or let me know, and I can make sure we get signed.
We short $100,000 in signature.
and signatures, correct, but not in match.
All good?
That's it.
Item number 11, discussion item regarding TIP amendment schedule for CY 2025 and amendments to the fiscal year 25-28 transportation improvement plan and 2015 metropolitan transportation plan. And this one goes to Kelly.
All right, quite a few updates here. I'll start with our May amendments. We've submitted those already, but whenever we approved those amendments in April, our public comment period had not closed yet, so the policy board preliminarily approved those amendments pending any egregious public comments, which we did not have. So we were sitting also at that public engagement meeting packet that we have to you guys to review as well, but no significant issues with those. Second, we have created a TIP amendment schedule, so we are going to be reaching out quarterly to TAC and any city entities or stakeholders that have projects within the TIP, and we're just requesting that they review those projects and get any amendments to us within that time frame, so that way we will have time to, go out for public comment, and hopefully then our public comment will be finished by the time we bring it to policy board to approve. That's the main goal with that new schedule. And so just to go over the different amendments that we have, you could have a formal amendment, which is like a big change to a project, a large change in funding, change in scope, anything that would significantly change what we have in the TIP. And then we've got our administrative amendments, which is a smaller change in funding, less than 50% of it, change in let date, or anything a little bit smaller that would not require public comment. Regarding the May amendment, we did have one administrative amendment to one of our projects, and it was just a change in wording in the description. The description said that it was implying that the preliminary engineering was just for the interchange, but actually preliminary engineering was for the entire project. So we just corrected that and already changed that within our TIP as well. And then if you go to the next slide, you'll see the next one, sorry, one more. This is our amendment schedule for this upcoming August amendment. And we have already reached out to the TAG members, and they've gotten back to us with any changes they may need. We know 2 projects that we will definitely be making amendments to, and there'll probably be one other administrative amendment, and then there are 2 or 3 other projects that may need to be amended. We're just pending some information there. And that's the biggest update with our TIP and NCP.
Okay, any questions? Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Item number 12, discussion item regarding the draft TxDOT KTMPO sick cloud planning agreement. And Uryan, you're up again.
All right, thank you. Every 5 years, TxDOT enters a change in agreement with all the MPOs and the fiscal agents that oversee the finances of the MPOs. Our time for a new agreement has arrived. So TxDOT has been working on updating their current, the agreement we currently work under. They moved some stuff around in there. There were no real significant material changes to the agreement. What you have in front of you in your packet is the actual draft agreement that they sent. I anticipate we will receive, following last Friday, we had a call with TxDOT, MPOs, and fiscal agents. I think there were some additional clarification questions that were asked. So I anticipate we'll receive another draft planning agreement from the state. Once we have that final draft, we will get it put together with all of KTMPO's and SICCOG's information, and then it will be brought back before the TAC for the TAC June meeting, and then back to the policy board for approval in June. And that gives us a little bit of, I forgot, they changed the way we're doing things this year. This year they're doing DocuSign. So we will bring this back to the TAC and policy board with KTMPO's information on there. Once the policy board takes action to approve, then I will send a notification to TxDOT, and they will send out a DocuSign to the policy board chair, SICCOG executive director, and through the TxDOT folks to sign the document. That's all I have on that update, unless there are any questions. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Uryan. We'll go forward. You're still with next discussion item regarding the draft 2026-27 UPWP sent to the Federal Highways Administration.
Okay, we've talked about this, I believe, every month for the past 6 months. The UPWP is our internal budget document that, where we assign what we're going to use the planning dollars we receive from Federal Highways on what tasks we're going to use those on. I did submit the UPWP that the draft UPWP that the policy board approved last month, I believe. I have not received any comments from TxDOT at this time. We did have a half-hour meeting with TxDOT, Federal Highways, and the other MPOs about UPWPs, and even though they've standardized the template, a lot of MPOs do a lot of things differently across the state, believe it or not. So there are some keywords that I don't think we have in here that FTA and Federal Highways did tell us to remove from our UPWP. But to speak to, I think it was Mayor Lee that spoke last time that said we need to be very cautious of removing just keywords blanketly. I did hear on that call that Federal Highways and Federal Transit are not, what they're doing is they're looking up the keywords and they're seeing what context they are used in before kicking something back. I know one of the big conversation or words of conversation was environmental, because there's environmental justice. They did say that, if you use environmental as, or environment as, this is the current planning environment that we are in here, that's different than using it in the context that they don't like. So they are aware that just filtering things through and kicking it back without any contextual research could be an issue. So they are looking for what context those words are being used in our documents. And like I said, I haven't heard back either way. I should be receiving some type of checklist from TxDOT saying we've met the criteria. As you'll see in the UPWP that was sent out, there are still a couple of areas we need to include information in there. We've been in conversation. I spoke with Raymond Flores from the Hawk this morning. With the two areas where we need to add additional information are in the Temple UZA transit section and the Killeen UZA transit section of the document. So we'll have some language for those two areas early next week to include.
That's all I have. We're all pretty well versed on that. We've been talking about that for months. So thanks for the update and keep the ball rolling. Number 14, discussion item regarding KTMPO's Regional Active Transportation Plan update.
Thank you so very much. As I previously mentioned, ATAC is working on the Regional Active Transportation Plan. And visionary, it's the goal is to really plan out a trail connecting points, sidewalks, anything that can be used for active transportation within our boundaries, and even thinking of regionally connecting to outside of our boundaries, and starting in Kittner, going all the way to Troy and beyond. And this will help us align with what's happening with TxDOT in 2020. They began their Texas active transportation plan inventory. And so this is going to help us demonstrate planning readiness and improve grant competitiveness and prioritize projects that encourages multimodal integration. And if you could go to the next slide, please. And the next one. This is our timetable here, and currently we are at May 1st to June 13th. We're in the data collection phase, and this is Tay back here. Y'all say hi to everyone if y'all haven't met him yet. He's our GIS specialist, and he's reaching out to all the cities and entities that have GIS and that have these different layers of maps already in play. We're starting with parks and schools, and any place where there's active transportation. And then if you don't have a GIS on staff, he's going to be developing something to build those connectors for us to make this potential trail active transportation plan. And then the next phase would be we would take that out to public comment. And that public comment part is going to be what do our citizens say they want the connectors to be. And this would be totally a visionary scope as well. And once they tell us what they believe are the connecting spots, then ATAC, which is our committee, they're going to prioritize those and then bring that to TAC and to policy board for approval. Does anyone have any questions?
I did, but I don't know if this is, it's an extra curiosity. Any of our school districts participate in ATAC?
No, but we have a vacancy available for this. That would be really great to have a school district. And in fact, one of the things that we're doing, aside from this, not to take you on a rabbit trail, but October is walk, bike, and roll to school month. And I know that safety continues to be a priority for all of us. So we're looking for, how can we promote walk, bike, and roll to school in a safe environment for our kids. So if y'all have any ideas or you have any connections, give me a shout out. Did that answer your question, sir? Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? All right. Move on to item number 15, another discussion item regarding public input received through April 2025. And this is also yours, Anita.
Yes, I need some water. Can you get one more? Thank you. These are our public comment summary by the members. April, we had a significant amount, and that was due to our amendments that we went out, and that was actually survey. So we had 27 survey responses. Primarily, once again, that was our big public comment. We did have some minor public comments during the month of April. One was regarding housing and one was public transit, and both of those public comments were forwarded on to the appropriate jurisdictions. And there was nothing tremendously negative on these public comments or that we couldn't resolve or are working to resolve.
Questions, comments? All right. I already feel like you've given us quite a few updates, but you're up again on item 16.
I love it. These are totally different updates. Fine, we're on that here. All right, the upcoming meetings of the board and the committees are up on the screen. June 4th is the Technical Advisory Committee, and June 18th is the Policy Board meeting. Trying to find, I'm going to do this a little wonky probably. I'm going to do the air quality, and then I'll go in ladder updates. Air quality readings were 74 and 70 parts per billion at our last interval. And the other updates I have are, we did have an MPO Director meeting with TxDOT leadership late last month. And I think I briefed the TAC on all of these items, but while we were there, we were informed that US DOT staff level has been reduced by approximately 4,000 folks. 50% of our Federal Highways office, our Texas Division office, was cut. We now have, I think there are 5 people in the Federal Highways office. So it may take a little longer for things to get done as they reorganize and restructure and work through those challenges. There was a letter from Secretary Duffy that was sent out for anybody that receives transportation funding, touching on recipients complying with federal non-discrimination and immigration law requirements, saying if you don't follow these, you could potentially lose your funding. That was the gist of the letter. This year, the MPO conference, our national organization, that annual conference will be held in Rhode Island in September. If you are interested in going to the conference, please let me know. There are, KTMPO can use our PL dollars to pay for you to go to the conference in Rhode Island. I just have to submit all the information necessary to TxDOT for prior approval, and then we'll work through all of the logistics for anybody that would like to go. I'll be going, and probably 2 other staff. So if anybody from the board would like to go, you're more than welcome to attend. The last thing that I have is the RTAG. Well, I have 2 more things. The RTAG, our Regional Transit Advisory Group, which is actually one of the COG regions things, but because it's transit, I just wanted to touch base on it here. Every 5 years, we go through a planning activity, and we're funded through TxDOT for that activity. I believe the commission is meeting on it today to discuss the award. But our region, we were recommended for funding of $120,000 for the 5-year planning activities, and additional $40,000 for continuation funding to do activities we already do, such as host those meetings and coordinate, facilitate conversations. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anita.
That's absolutely correct, sir.
Okay, the last thing, and I'll either me or Jim or somebody will probably brief on this tomorrow at SITCOG, and I don't want anybody in here to have to start answering phones today and not have any knowledge. But the Texas Veterans Commission grant program, SITCOG was awarded I think it was a $300,000 grant last year, the last grant cycle. We had a little bit of a tough start where we actually didn't get the program rolling for the first, until we were probably, 5 months in?
At least 3.
Yeah, I mean, there were, with some of the transition that the HOP was going through, and now we've got a new transit provider, it just didn't, nothing aligned until we were about 3 to 6 months into the grant cycle. That being said, the commission, the Texas Veterans Commission, did not renew our grant for the FY25 Vet Ride program this year. I'm going to have some conversations with Jim, hopefully, as well as George, who manages the program for the COG, and see if there's any way for us to possibly appeal that, because that is a service that has increased ridership significantly over the past 2 or 3 months. And the metrics they used for that were not metrics that we had excelled at, because we were experiencing different transitions with different programs. I just want to let everybody out there know, so if you receive a phone call that says, I heard from the VA that the Vet Ride program is not funded anymore, Well, it's not funded at this point. It will not be funded after June 30th. So people who are currently using it can continue to use it. It is funded through June 30th. The positive side of all this is SICOG was awarded, and this is not transportation related, $350,000 for Housing for Texas Heroes funding through the Texas Veterans Commission. So we have that as another veterans resource that will be coming through the call. With that, I'm open to any questions.
I just comment, I think if we do appeal that, I think it would stand a pretty good chance of being approved, because the numbers are tracking to meet their thresholds. It's just the delay of transition in the very beginning. We didn't get as much ridership in those first 3 or 4 or 5 months as what we thought, and then it took off. So it is trending to meet the thresholds. So it's pretty clear that it was the delay start that caused us not meeting the threshold for that.
So we'll be looking at ways to possibly appeal that to keep that benefit in the region for our veterans.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for our illustrious director? Next item on the agenda are member comments. Any general comments from anybody? I just want to get off your chest, maybe.
Give me a quick update.
Therapy session.
National League of Cities coordinated and they continue to do a letter writing campaign for all of our congressmen leading up to the 12th was the first iteration to get to convince our Texas representatives and all the other ones to make sure that cities, they consider cities more when they do funding. Nothing against TxDOT or the other state, but 15% of the bilateral infrastructure money didn't get down to the city on average across the country. I'm not sure what Texas is doing. But that is a continuing advocacy that they're doing at the national level. And the chair of our infrastructure committee is Vanessa Fuentes in Austin, and I'm one of the vice chairs. But they're regularly, so if you're a member of the city, you may get a message asking you to do the same thing to continue the process. And if you're not, you can still participate as well. But they're trying to, without being in your face, because that has been turning congressmen away, challenging them on some of the bills. But we're trying to be nice in there. And I know Kruger's office have even asked about if we want, we can participate in bill writing, if that's your thing. And then the Department of Transportation, after their last meeting with us, they actually strongly suggest that when they're going through the rulemaking, especially with the grant process, they don't get a lot of information from the cities. So if you get, I would ask you to apply, get the update in the Federal Registry so we know when some new rulemaking come, and that's where we can influence things to the administration. Because they may not have the answer, and as you see the staff, the size of the staff is decreasing, but if we want something written in our favor, we can include streamlined rules, we can actually influence that.
Anybody else?
Got one, I just got an email from Michael Yates via Jake Smith about traffic on 93, specifically when I-35 is backed up, people use 93 Hartwick Bluff Road as a vehicle. I've done that myself. And they said you should put in a bunch of improvements that we are going to do. The project goes to a bid in July. So Anita, I'll send this email to you. You can log that into the public comments. And I'll respond to Michael and Jake, see if we can, they didn't provide the person's information, but to close the loop and tell them we are tracking, it is coming. Now some of it is what the city's doing on Hartwick Bluff Road in that intersection, but they're also talking about improvements on 93, which is, that's Victor's problem. But I know y'all have some stuff. Worker. That's right. So we'll include that for the public comments that Anita tracks, and we'll get an answer out to the rest.
Okay. What else? I'll call this meeting adjourned.
You